Hello, friends, and Happy New Year. My name is Allison, the self proclaimed priestess of Wonderland. And in today's video, I'm going to talk about why I choose a word for the year instead of making a resolution or even really setting intentions. I'm going to talk a little bit about the first time I ever chose a word for the year and why I have continued to stick with it and how it has kind of like each word kind of builds off the other one and how they all have kind of like flowed together and build off of the other. And it feels like the more that I continue to do or pick a word for every year, the more that they just kind of like come to me. If that makes sense. So not only do they like gain momentum on top of each other, but they kind of like blend together, run into the other, and help lead me to the next word. So the first time I chose a word for the year was the New Year's Eve on 2016. 2015 was like a really big year for me. I was completing my Saturn return by 2015. And so 2016 was leading me out of that. And another practice that I started this year was doing a coloring page with the intention of just kind of helping me to like process and integrate and reflect on the previous year and to help me get ready for the new year to come. The whole adult coloring craze what like led me into a deeper connection to my spirituality. There connects me to my creativity and it's just relaxing and calming and all of the things that they say about adult coloring. I think I only did this for like 3 years, but this was the start of the word of the year, and I only did, like, the coloring thing for, like, 3 years because I began or actually I think it was 2 years because I started using the Coloring Book of Shadows planners in 2018. Like, it was just, like, the thing I would do on New Year's Eve is color because we all know those adult coloring pages, like, take so long. So it was, like, something to do while you're waiting for midnight, and it just I don't know, it ended up being this very spiritual process for me that led to choosing the word for the year. 2016 was me exiting my Saturn return. 2015 is the year that my dad passed away. He passed away in August of 2015. So this 2016 New Year's was like a couple months later. He was my everything. Like I went to him for every decision I've ever made. We never agreed on anything. He usually didn't think what I was, explaining to him or confronting to him, he usually thought that it was a really bad idea. He still like he was like my spitballer, like, I could throw these things out, and it helped me to process and make a plan and to figure things out. And even if he didn't agree, which usually he did not agree with like what I was saying, he would still help me to figure out how to make it happen. And the biggest thing about him was that like he made you believe that you could do something. And he was this person for everybody. Like everybody in my family went to him for things. And for some reason he always had the answer. He always knew the processes that you needed to go through, the paperwork that you needed to fill out. He knew the directions on how to get there and like he was like a walking Google before we had Google. Thank God we have Google now because we were all so lost without him. I would seriously call him on the phone if I was lost somewhere, and he would get on the computer and get on Google Maps and tell me how to get there because this was before we had cell phones. Or we had smartphones, but we didn't really use it in the way that like we use them now. So he'd tell me what I was doing wrong, but he would always make a point to understand where I was coming from. And he was really good with just listening to people and understanding where they were coming from and just having compassion and just like enthusiasm for other people's ideas and dreams. And he like wanted to help people make it happen. And he tried to help like in any way that he could. So many people in my family relied on him. So there was no one else to take his place when he passed because we were all in the same boat of like, what do we do without Brad? What do we do? So, like, there was no one in my family that could, like, be that spitballer person, and I'm still looking for that spitballer person. But it like, his passing, like, taught me how to figure things out on my own, which was something I had never been able to do my entire life, which is kind of embarrassing to say because I was 33 when he died. So, I was like that's, like, the first time in my life I've ever had to, like, figure something out on my own. So anyways, like, he was really kind of like a priestess in his own right, where he would hold space for people to, like, figure it out on their own. So anyways, the point I'm trying to make is the first time I picked a word for the year was I was struggling. Like, I was struggling and I didn't know how to live without him. I didn't know how to live without his guidance. I didn't know how to live without his voice. Like, it took me a very long time to recover from the loss of him. So, like, I couldn't make a decision without him, and I certainly could not make a New Year's resolution without him. I knew that I was at a very low point in my life, like, very low, because I did not take to grief very well in very healthy ways. I mean, I don't think anybody does really, but, like, there's a process and there's steps that you go through that are healthy and healing, but I wasn't doing that. I was a functional alcoholic and, drowned my sorrows in drugs and alcohol. Not recommending that to anybody, but I'm just trying to prove my point is that, like, I was at, like, the what I thought at the time, the lowest of the low. But the secret is that it's like a bottomless pit. You can still go lower. But I thought that I was at, like, the lowest point in my life. So my word for 2016 was up because I was like, I'm low. There's nowhere to go but up, right? Like you have to, when you hit rock bottom, you can't go any lower, supposedly. So I used affirmations like there's nowhere to go but up, pick yourself up, dust yourself off was another one that I used, or simply just get up. Like I'd just be like, get up, just get up. Or I would just say up. Like it was literally a two-letter word, but it was so powerful for me in that year. So in December of 2016, after having the word for the year, by that time I had started my business of in August of 2016. I technically started it in July, but it took a lot of paperwork to get, so I think like my official like opening business day was August of 2016. And I mean, I'm still in business today, kind of, sort of. 2020 like threw me for a loop, but I mean, I'm still working uh, as a independently owned massage therapist business. But anyway, so in December of 2016, I quit my job. I started my own mobile massage business, which was also something that he told me that I could not do. So I proved him wrong in that year. And in December of 2016, the movie Mary Poppins Returns came out, and I went to, my favorite movie theater that I'm always ranting and raving about, because it's a bar, it's a movie theater, it's a restaurant, and they play old movies. They have costume parties and they have movie parties, and I love going there because they encourage you to dress up. So I dressed up as Mary Poppins from like the original movie, not knowing the glamorous outfits that were going to be in the second movie. If any of you haven't seen Mary Poppins Returns, it takes place after the original Mary Poppins, and the two children from the original are grown up and are adults, and one of them, the brother Michael, has two children of his own, and he recently lost his wife. So the story of the second movie is the children from the first movie who are now adults. He's dealing with the loss of his spouse, and then his children are dealing with the loss of their mother. So the whole movie has a theme of grief, basically, which I was in the first year of the grief of losing my father. So Mary Poppins returns to help the family deal with what's going on and to help them go through this time of their life. The last song in the movie is titled, I'm gonna cry. It's titled Nowhere to Go But Up, which was the mantra that I had been using the entire year for the word of the year. And I just sat there like bawling in the middle of the movie theater crying into my like fish and chips, which is what I had for dinner. And like it was just such a profound moment of like I never committed to a New Year's resolution before for an entire year. Maybe for a couple months, maybe 6 months in, but like you change so much throughout a year and really strict, rigid resolutions like don't always come with you. But the word does. Like it applied to every part of my 2016 up until the very last month where this song is like blaring on the movie speakers. There's nowhere to go but up. I just sat there and I cried and cried and cried and I couldn't believe it. And I'm getting emotional over it now. And it's been how many years? It's been 8 years. And I'm still feeling emotional of it because it was such a profound moment. And from there on out, I mean, that was December. I was like, okay, what is my word for 2017 going to be? And honestly, I couldn't tell you. I could probably look up in a journal what it was, but off the top of my head, I'm not really sure what it was. But up was like the literally a 2-letter word that carried me through one of the most difficult times of my life. Actually, 2015 was probably the most difficult time when like when he was sick and dying, but the year after that, because you know, the year after you lose someone, you're having to experience everything in an entire year for the first time without them. So like, and then I always tell people like at least give yourself a year. It took me 3 years to finally not cry every single day and it took me 3 years to like not drink a bottle of whiskey every night. So my point is like a word is so flexible. It can mean so many different things and it can move and change and shape and be mutable along with you throughout the entire year. So that brings me to my word for 2024, which was magic. And I set out, so 2023 was my word was intention. And it was so powerful. And like, I got into this practice of like taking a deep breath before I did anything, before I sat down at my computer to work, before I got into my car to go to work, before I started a massage, before I started washing the dishes, before I started doing some other random chore, of having the intention of just like being or whatever my intention was. I mean, sitting down to work, like my intention, I would say it in my head, take a few deep breaths and say, my intention for working on the computer day is filming this video and completing it. And just taking that moment of pause before you do anything, before you go meet some friends. My intention to be with these people today is to have a good time, to be loving and supportive, to whatever, to try to go into situations, especially difficult situations or things that you don't want to do, with a positive intention so that there is more likely going to be a positive outcome. So intention was my word for 2023. It was so powerful and I felt so ready taking that intention and start truly making magic with it. So I had like big plans and big ideas. If you are a Twitch subscriber or a Ko-fi member, you can go back and watch all of my private videos are pinned in your private channels so that you can get more detailed information about like if you go to I think it's just like the January recap of 2024. I had like stacks of books and journals and I had like a protocol from like 3 different books of like what I was going to do every new moon and what I was going to do every full moon and what I was going to have the most magical year of my life. I was also going to take another giant stack of books and notebooks of all of the metaphysical classes that I had taken in the last 20 years and compile them and take the stack of post-it notes and note cards and scraps of paper that have spells or recipes or incantations written on them and compile them into like one glamorous book of shadows. That never happened. But I was like, this is going to be the most magical year ever. And I wanted to like pull all of these different metaphysical, magical pieces of myself and like put them together in like this one thing. And man, I was super, super wrong. So what ended up happening was my year of magic ended up being a year of shadow work, like deep shadow work, taking down the walls and barriers that was blocking my magic, because I couldn't have a year of magic if I had all of these things that were preventing me from connecting to source and connecting to magic. So I go into more detail about the specific things that were blocking my magic and kind of how I worked through them. Again, that's available for Twitch subscribers and Ko-fi members. But basically, there was a past life where all the magic died, is what I call it, that I had to revisit, and I'm honestly still kind of like working through that. And then there was also, whether it's connected to that past life or a different past life, I purposefully lock a big chunk of myself away. Like, it's literally in a box. Like, it's in a box that is locked. And so I had to like work through that, still kind of doing that. So there was also a disconnection from divine feminine energy that partially derived from mother wounds, among other things. Again, I go into like more detail about that, but that was a really big disconnect, which was also kind of connected to sexual trauma from this life. And I mean, when you think about it, it makes sense, because we all know the sacral chakra is where our creativity is. And we also know that our sacral chakra holds our sexuality. Like, that's where our sexuality comes from. And obviously they're connected. It's the same chakra. So, I mean, this just makes sense. Like, if your sacral chakra is blocked due to sexual trauma, your creativity is blocked and your magic is blocked. Like, I believe now, in what I've learned throughout this year of magic, is that when your sacral chakra is blocked, like, so is your magic. Obviously, like, ideally you want all of your chakras to be in alignment to like truly connect to like your own power, and to be like, connected, and to feel like you're most empowered and therefore connected to your magic. But I really think that the sacral chakra plays a humongous part in it, at least for me. And so this year was the year of sacral chakra work and shadow work, because I wasn't able to connect completely to my magic because of these blockages and because of these walls, and because I had literally like put these things in a box and kept myself away from them for various reasons. This also manifested like physically in my body. There was a lot of trial and error with balancing my hormones, finding like an exercise routine, a physical, like moving my physical body to get energy flow. If you are feeling physically stuck and stiff in your body, magic is energy. Like, it's not going to flow through you the way it's supposed to if it has to like hit all these walls and blockages, and like the physical flow of like the blood and your breath and everything, and the movement of your body and your muscles is all connected to that magic too. I do also feel like hormones play a humongous role on obviously your mental health, but also spirituality. I really do think that like as a society, we suppress spirituality and our connection to source and spirit and all of that good stuff. I really think that hormones have a connection to spirituality. I just keep running into that over and over again. So there was a lot of like physical things that I needed to do with my body, as on top of those energetic things that I talked about earlier, to connect to my magic. And then there was visiting Salem and connecting to my ancestors that were hung as witches there. And I mean, visiting Salem has been like a lifetime dream of mine. And I know that I've been promising a road trip video for you, but I'm really struggling on like how to approach it. And I am still going to give that to you, but I don't know. First of all, I showed you so many things while like I basically took you with me on my trip. I'm just kind of like, how can I make a whole video that isn't like what you've already seen? But anyways, so I spent the end of the year after going to Salem and visiting and like feeling the energy that is in that place was like incredible. And that in and of itself, I think unblocked a lot for me energetically. So one of my ancestors who was hung as a witch during the Salem witch trials was Susanna Martin, which again, I think she needs her own video, because I've done so much research on her life, and I just think that needs to be a whole separate video also. She's featured in this book called American Witches by Susan Fair, and she's featured in the book as one of the most ridiculous witch stories or witch accusations ever. And so that's super funny and a good read. And then I read a fiction book about Susanna Martin. It's fiction, but it's really interesting because the author is also a descendant of hers. And I really do feel like she based a lot of it on fact, even if it was like a fictional romance story. All of the other witches, because Susanna Martin was in jail with like 9 other women who were also accused, and just like their life living in that jail cell for so long. And I mean, like one of them gave birth to a baby in the cell, then the baby died. And there's just so many crazy, like unfathomable things that happened during that time that is just so much to wrap your brain around. I have to do a totally separate video on that. But going down that rabbit hole of learning about her, learning about Salem in general. I'm still in the process of reading the book Healing the Witch Wound. It's a slow process, so it needs its own video. So the end of the year, like into, spooky season, Halloween season, I was going down the ancestor rabbit hole. And that kind of like wrapped up the year of magic for me, which again did not go the way I wanted it to, how I set out to do it. But I still had a year of magic. Like when you look back on it, it wasn't making a beautiful, fancy book of shadows, but it was so magical. It was hard and it was difficult. And honestly, I feel like 2024 is the hardest year since 2016, the year after my dad died. Even though my magic word of the year did not go as I planned, it still motivated me throughout the entire year. And I would always come back to it. I would always try to reconnect and to see how it's reflecting my life, shaping my life throughout the entire year. So I feel like so much more empowered and connected to my magic, which was the intention of having a magical year, even if it didn't look like how I wanted it to. So I still feel that success and I still feel that like accomplishment, even though it didn't look the way I wanted to. So if you're like holding yourself to like a very strict resolution, like I'm going to do 100 sit-ups a day, like, no, you're not. No, you're not. And if you are going to commit to something like that you want to do every day, start it in the spring, not in winter, because the winter time is so much an integration time, a reflection time, a hibernating time, a resting time. This is when you're thinking about these. This is when you're planning, when those wheels are turning and your mind is wandering and you're dreaming about what you want to do. Then you set out to do it in the spring. Anyways, let winter be winter. So at the end of this year, I thought maybe I'll just have 2025 be year of magic part 2, 2.0, so that I can truly embody it. And I was trying to come up with words that like, what's a word other than embodiment that would like embody the like magic that I was trying to like have flow through me. I started leaning towards enchantment. I don't know, because that felt like embodiment and magic, like mixed together. I don't know. So I was really close to doing enchantment for 2025. Like I wanted to set out, have this year be more about physical magic, of casting and cataloging spells, of making potions and spellcrafts. But we all know that that's not how the universe works. So it has been pushing me to continue searching for love. Because like I said, I learned this year that sacral chakra is very much connected to obviously creativity and magic. And I've been avoiding it. I've been avoiding love or like romantic love due to the past sexual trauma for the last 20 something years. And I hate that my life path card is the Lover's card of the tarot, number 6, because I'm a 33-6 life path number, and I've been avoiding it. And I mean, the things that you avoid oftentimes are the things that will search you out and find you, and are oftentimes the things that you need to learn lessons around. The universe is pushing me to continue searching for love for myself, love for others, and love for this life, to live with more compassion for myself and others. And so in closing out this year, there was this, so how I feel connection to my magic, or is that like when you feel this pull towards something, and I kept feeling this pull and like following this thread, and it led me to like clearing off my altar and going through this box that I now use as an altar. I used it as a travel altar when I was on my road trip, but I now just have this box sitting on my altar and I still kind of use it as like a working altar. Like I kind of never stopped using it. And so I was like clearing things out, going through the things that I had for this year. And I ended up like in this ritual that I didn't even realize like was happening. I was just following that thread and looking back on it now, I'm like, wow, this was me embodying my magic. Cause I was just like, feel this pull like on my heart, like leading me to do this thing, even though it's like a mundane thing of like dusting and clearing. And I was throwing scraps of paper away that didn't make sense, or like, and I was like putting things back that like I wanted to stay there, that I wanted to keep. And it was almost like shifting through this entire year of magic. And like we say, shedding and releasing, throwing away the things that aren't serving us anymore and keeping the things that do serve our highest good. And in doing that, I came across this rose quartz heart that Amber made for me at the beginning of 2024 with the word magic on it. And so a rose quartz is literally the stone of love. It is in a heart shape, which is the symbol of love. And so finding this for me was confirmation that my 2025 word for the year is love. Maybe love has always been connected to at least my magic. And I don't know if it's maybe connected to everybody's magic. They say love is everything, so how could it not be? But I don't know. That this is just my experience. Love is very much connected to my magic and my power. So, another thing I want to share is I actually picked this card last night from the Priestess of Light Oracle. And the card is Healing the Heart, Power of Self-Love. So I picked this card last night, knew that I was getting up this morning and going to film this video. The description in the Oracle or the guidebook is incredible. And I read it like paragraph by paragraph, and I was like journaling at the same time. And like, it was like the guidebook was speaking to me, like having a conversation, because I'd write something down, I'd journal, and I'd have this thought, and then I'd read another paragraph, and it would be in reference to the thought I just had, or to the note that I just journaled about. And like, it was so weird and profound, and just like again a continuation of the confirmation that, like, I don't know, it felt like an initiation. It felt like you are now connected to your magic. You always have this connection or ability to connect to it, whatever. Each of these cards has an affirmation that goes with it. And the affirmation, which is, I think I'm going to put it it's sitting on my altar right now, and I wrote it on a little postcard, which is like, this is how I keep track of spells and incantations, is writing it on note cards. I'm probably going to have a video about that too, but anyway, so the affirmation is, it is safe and comfortable for me to love and be loved. I live in my own personal power, loving and encouraging myself every single day. If that doesn't confirm that magic is connected, or power and magic is connected to love, I don't know what is. I hope that this video encourages you to pick a word for the year. As you can see from my story, that you will always accomplish it no matter what happens. And even if it turns out differently than what you expected or what you intended it to, it will always work out the way it's supposed to. No matter how low you are, you can choose a word that uplifts you, encourages you, motivates you, empowers you to feel inspired. And remember that you can't screw it up. You just can't. I don't think it's possible for you to screw up your word for the year, unless maybe you totally forget about it. But then I think even then, I think if you, like, at the end of the year on New Year's Eve next year, if you look back in a journal where hopefully you wrote it down, or hopefully you wrote it in your Just Phase Moon planner, that, like, I bet even if you forgot about it, I bet if you looked back on that word, you'd be like, oh my God, at the end of the year, like, I did have that year. I don't think it's possible for you to screw it up, is what I'm saying. So cheers to 2025. 2025 is a 9-year of the Hermit in numerology. So I have another video all about the themes of the Hermit and the themes of 9 in the tarot deck, if you're interested in watching that. And then I also have a video about the big astrological shifts that are happening this year. And hopefully, like, if you can't, like, come up with a word, maybe those might, like, trigger trigger a word for you, thinking about the themes of the Hermit or thinking about like the astrological shifts that we're going to be having next year. Or, like set the intention, shuffle an oracle deck and set the intention to like, I'm going to use this word for 2025. And I mean, most oracle decks have, like a keyword on it. Like if I had done that, I'd have heart for my word for the year. And I mean, that's basically the same thing, right? Go check out those other videos. Hopefully they might help you pick a word if you haven't already. If you do have a word for the year, let me know in the comments. If you are a community member, make sure to print out your lantern because I want to put and color your lantern because I want to put everybody's word for the year on their lantern. So thanks so much for watching. Happy New Year from Wonderland. I hope to see you many, many times on the other side of the looking glass this year. Thank you so much. Bye. I forgot to eat my sandwich. I hope to see you many, 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 many times.